How I Did It Too, the incredible true story of the real mastermind behind 9/11 by Marlon Bundo with OJ Simpson. Chapter 1. I just got off the phone from about the weirdest conversation of my life. This Marlon? Okay, I won't do I'm not going to do the accent. It's a shame, but I'm not going to do the accent. This Marlon, an American voice had said, calling from an unknown number. Sure the hell is, I answered. I was in a jolly, frivolous mood, having just watched a whole boatload of real daft comedy and got myself into the state of mind where I don't give a damn about anything. Huh? The voice said. It's me. Who this? You right? The man said. I furrowed my brow. Who was this guy? What did he want? I'm sorry, man, I said. I'm kind of busy. I was right in the middle of an episode, a good committed 2 hours into my binge. And I promise you, as a true Yorkshire man, I never buy anything unless I can sup it or scoff it, and it's at least 30% off. So, no man, you're a writer, right? You write things. Stories, books, right? Stop trying to do the accent. I laughed. I've written, I said, and I think a lot about writing, but I wouldn't call myself a writer. More a failed writer, if anything. The man interrupted. Told me he dug my stuff. Told me he liked my voice. Said, I'm looking for a ghostwriter. I want you to tell my story. I want someone who can make me sound hip, put a bit of swing into proceedings. I can't stand none of this generic crap the other guys put out, and I don't want it like last time. It's time to get it off my chest. Listen, man, I said, who is this? I've got no idea who you are. It's me. It's me. It's me. It's me, the guy said. It's OJ, the deuce. Well, I had to laugh at that, didn't I? If I'd been drinking tea, and he'd caught me in one of the rare moments when I wasn't, I'd surely have spat it all down myself, caused an awkward wet patch on my crotch, and gone for a walk, self-consciously suppressing the urge to tell strangers. It's not piss, it's tea. Okay, man, I said, what can I do for you? I really was in that kind of mood. So there was an insane mad hoax caller on the phone pretending to be some comic actor from the 70s. But why not have a conversation with him? Sometimes even the company of a nutter is better than no company at all. I told you, he said. It's time to come clean. About the murders, I said. What? He shouted. God damn it, no. Why do people keep going on about that? Didn't I say I didn't do it? Don't no one believe me? Didn't you see the court case on TV? I was acquitted, man. The whole world knows the story. The glove didn't fit, so they had to acquit. Right? Sure, I just thought, this is something else, man. A bigger story than that. A story that's going to make your big toe shoot up in your boot. Make you some money, too. Make both of us some money, God willing. Now you interested or not? 1,000 thoughts went through my brain. Well, I say 1,000, it was more like 9. And they went something like this. Wow, money, hey, this is exciting. Oh yeah, but the guy's just a fake, pretend nutter. But what if he's not? I like writing, and I'm always saying I need a push. Yeah, but won't I just end up playing stupid online games and watching videos and clicking on instantly forgotten nonsense like I always do? Yeah, probably. Yeah, we might as well hear him out. Money's good. I like money. Cool. Listen, he said, this ain't easy for me, but I gots to get it off my chest. I gots to find a way to make some cashola. And the people deserve the truth. It's time for the truth to be told. I heard him take a big breath, then several seconds of silence, a little quiet whimper, another big breath. Then he cleared his throat. Then he said, ahem. It's kind of the same thing, huh? And then he sighed and sniffed. Then he gulped. Then he went quiet. You still... Listen, man, he said. You know that book I wrote? That book I had written back in the day? The one about the... Yeah, he snapped. The one about the... How I did it, or if I did it, or... I can't even remember the goddamn title. You know I didn't make a penny from that shit? Not one goddamn cent. All I got was headaches and hassles, Waste of goddamn time. Why, I'm sorry to hear about that. I smirked. And smirking's good when you're on the phone, isn't it? Better than laughing, which is what I would have done had we been face to face. On the phone, Alan Dean Foster once wrote, no one can hear you smirk. And remembering that famous line made me think of Alien and of Sigourney Weaver running around in her knickers, of how she's old now and how everyone gets old. So what's the point of marrying someone young and beautiful if you're just going to wake up next to an old woman one day? No one wants to marry their grandma, right? Did you hear what I just said? Said the man, making out he was OJ. Sure, man. But can you repeat it one more time, please? I want to make sure I heard you right. That was... I want a new book, he said, and I want you to write it, and I want it to be called How I Did It Too, and with a subtitle. All goddamn books got to have a subtitle these days. And the subtitle, hold on, I said, let me get a pen. I wasn't getting a pen. I just felt like saying it. I waited a few seconds. Go ahead, I said, holding my pretend pen over the pretend piece of paper. How I Did It Too, he said. How I Did It Too, the incredible true story of the real mastermind behind 9/11 by OJ Simpson. You what? I said, laughing at the imagination and the balls of the fella. Listen, man, he said, this ain't no juicing. This ain't that prank TV show where I jump up at the end and say, aha, you've been juiced. This is the real deal right here. You heard what I said. I heard, but... It was me, he said. I was the brains behind the whole thing. I mean, I had some help along the way. George Bush, Osama bin Laden, Martha Stewart. And we'll get to all that in due course. But it was my idea, my plot, my plan. And I want people to know. I needs to get it off my chest. Find some peace of mind, I've been carrying this secret too long. It ain't good for a guy. He sighed. He chuckled. It even feels good just telling you. You're about the first person I've said it to out loud. Damn! If this is how good it feels to tell just one person, imagine how good it'll feel to tell the whole world. I had no idea what to say. Had no idea who this kook was. Was, frankly, becoming a little bored by the whole thing. But listen, he said, I'm getting ahead of myself. You're probably wondering if this is the real OJ, the main man, the juice of legend, the greatest running back in NFL history, famed actor and creator and star of Goldie and the Boxer. You didn't write that, I said. OJ Simpson didn't write Goldie and the Boxer. I produced it, he said. That's not the same as creating it. Listen, he snapped. I was there, man. I was in those meetings. I said, let's make a movie about a down-on-his-luck boxer and a little girl. If that's not creating it, I don't know what is. It was my goddamn idea. Just testing, OJ, I chuckled. Just making sure you're the real thing. Yeah, that don't prove nothing, he said. There's 1 billion people on this planet who could have told you that. But what I got in store for you, and now it was his turn to chuckle weirdly. Take a look out your window, man. Huh? I said. You heard me. Look out the window, fool. I must have been rendered momentarily stupefied by the command in his voice. As if in a trance, I stood up, pulled back the curtains, looked left, looked right, looked down. Look up, man, he said. Look in the sky. Holy shit, I said. OJ laughed. That right, man, he said. Holy shit is right. Holy fucking shit, I said again. OJ just laughed. And when I say OJ, I mean OJ. It really was him. But why? I stammered. For the money, man. Why else? I needed the cash, just like I need cash today, and you're the guy who's going to get it for me. I sat down in my chair, continuing to stare gormlessly into the sky. How the fuck had he... But listen, he said. That's enough for today. I'll talk to you soon. I'm getting out of this place. We got work to do. You and I. Okay, I said dumbly. So this, he said, is as they say in the movies. To be continued. I'll be in touch. I trust you're on board? This is the story of the century, man. Just don't tell no one about it, right? But alas for him, I was already recording it on a computer and uploading it to YouTube and sharing it with the world. Chapter 2. I had a strange, strong dream the next morning. I was back in California with some old acquaintances and friends. We were hanging out and I was telling him the story of the time that I ate 6 grams of mushrooms in 2014, right down to the detail of when I felt, during the beginning stage of the trip, that the mushrooms were instructing me to let go of concepts, and even the concept of concepts, let go of ideas, and even the idea of ideas. People were really listening, really into it, and as a result, the main man, the head of the community we were staying in, he hustled over and butted in, so obviously needing to reassert his authority and get the people away from me. Just like in real life, he never did like it when people paid attention to anyone other than him. Still, I didn't mind and quietly accepted it, smiling to myself and letting him take over once more. The main thing was being back in the vicinity, back among the mountains and redwoods and beaches of California and the happy hippie souls of my youth. Back where I belong, I said in the dream. And in the real world I woke up and smilingly pondered and wondered what it meant. And then I noticed I'd woken up because my landlord's dog had come in the room. "Good morning," I said. "Slurp," said the dog. It was 5 a.m. and sort of weird, because the dog never ever comes in my room. And actually I don't think he even comes upstairs. Probably he's been trained to imagine he's not allowed. I thought maybe he was having some sort of toilet emergency. But he showed no interest in being let out when I went downstairs and opened the back door for him. And then my brain, being what it is, I naturally considered that the whole reason the dog had entered the room was to wake me up and ensure I remembered the dream. Maybe it was a sign, an instruction for where to venture next, the sort of thing I'm always hankering after. I took myself back under the duvet with a lovely giddy feeling and figured time would tell. And when I woke up again a couple of hours later, the phone was ringing. "It's OJ," the by now familiar voice said. "How's it hanging?" "It's 7 in the morning," I said. "I was asleep." "Have you got anything?" he said. "I'm keen to get this thing going. I've been buzzed about it ever since our last phone call. I can't think of anything else." I guess I forgot to mention that we talked again about 5 days before, and shook hands on the whole ghostwriting thing. Probably I should go back and put that in. "Hold on," I said. "1 sec." I reached over for my computer, turned it on, threw my phone on the pillow, and went for a piss. I didn't bother getting dressed, because I figured no one else would be up. But I still cut my hand over my dick and balls, as you do, and made the 10-foot dash as quick as I could. The piss was a good one, very satisfying and long, and remarkably clear for the first piss of the day, probably because of all the tea I'd been drinking the night before. I flushed the toilet and thought about washing my hands, but then I thought, nah, I didn't piss on them, wasted time and water. Just like Winston Churchill once said, there's no need to wash your hands after a piss unless you've actually got piss on them. I rubbed them on my arse and thighs just in case and got back into bed. "You still there?" I said, tipping a mouthful of Bombay mix in my mouth and crunching it loudly down the phone. "God damn," OJ said, grimacing and moving the phone away from his ear. From his ear, I imagined. "What the hell is that?" "Onge mifs," I said, trying desperately to swallow the dry, spicy paste I'd created. "It's gone now," I said, reaching once more for the bag, and only just thinking better of it. "You one strange cat," OJ said. "Yeah," I said, "but at least I never... Oh, okay, here it is. You ready?" "Go ahead," he said. Okay. The mid-90s were a bad time for me. There was a stretch there where if something could go wrong, it did. I was short on dough. My car kept breaking down. They stuffed me with a Razzie for Naked Gun 33 1/3. They cancelled the Cosby Mysteries, my favourite TV show. And the Bills kept getting beat in the Super Bowl. Plus my cat, Marguerite, had to have all her legs amputated after coming down with feline leukemia. The veterinary bills were astronomical. It was about the final straw. I tells you, round about that time, if I'd fallen into a vat of she-male prostitutes with extra large breasts, I'd have come up sucking my thumb. But, more than anything, it was the cash and the tax people that were giving me the most headaches. I was down to my last couple of million and things were getting desperate. I had to figure a way to raise some more millions or else, and short of armed robbery, I was plumb out of ideas. I racked my brains. I thought and I thought until steam literally billowed out of my ears. And then, one morning, while I was waiting for a Pop-Tart to pop from the George Foreman grill my ex-wife had bought me for Christmas, it came. All I had to do was orchestrate the destruction of 3 of the World Trade Center buildings in such a way as to fool the world into believing that terrible, naughty Arabs had done it, and that all my problems would be solved. I knew instantly that I had found my solution. It was a genius idea, a moment of pure, God-given inspiration. But I also knew that pulling it off wouldn't be as easy as it sounded. This is the story of how I, Nathaniel Jane Simpson, a.k.a. the OJ, a.k.a. the Juice, along with a little help from some of my friends, masterminded the biggest coup in history. A scheme so audacious in its ambition and enormity that the world hasn't stopped talking about it since. This is the true story of the real brains behind 9/11. I stopped and yawned. I felt my eyelids growing heavy and starting to close. "Go on," said OJ, jerking me awake. "That's it," I said. "That's all I've got so far." "Humph," he said. "Humph," he said. He said. "I was hoping we'd have more than that by now." "I've been busy," I said. I was lying. I'd mostly been watching car accident videos on YouTube. "So what do you think?" "Not bad," he said. "It could use a little work, a little polish, but a pretty good start. I like it. Also," he said, "my name's not Nathaniel, and my middle name sure as shit ain't Jane." "Oops," I said, typo, and laughed. How had I not noticed that? How had I not noticed it even when reading it? Jane's not a man's name, not even in America. The brain's a funny old thing sometimes. "Still," he said, it's quite exciting. Gets me G'd up for what comes next. What you thinking?" A bit of backstory, a bit of setting the scene. What you want is to get the reader on your side, get them to understand why you did what you did, to empathize. It's good if the main character is likable. "Of course I'm likable," he said. "I'm the Juice. Everybody loves the Juice. America still loves the Juice. And you should see the mail I get, some of the pictures I get sent. Some of those honeys, man, girls younger than you'll ever get, spreading their cheeks, showing their titties, showing their titties. I'm going to get me some serious poontang when I get out of here. 9 years of fucking men's asses? You better believe I'm ready to fuck some girls' asses, all right?" I yawned again. Wondered how long this would go on for. Wondered if... "Anyways," he said, "it ain't bad, but it needs work. It needs more pizzazz. Cut to the chase, you know. Start with the planes smashing into the buildings. Wham! Wham! Everybody knows what's coming. They'll only be thinking about it, hankering after it, so get it out there nice and early." "Wham," he said again. "Wham." "I don't know," I said, "but hey, I know we were going to talk about this later, but let me ask you about it now, since... Well, I know what you mean. I can't stop thinking about it either." "Thinking about what?" he said. "Well," I said, "what was it? Okay, if you did it, how did you do it? You see all these theories about whether the planes were real, whether they were CGI, whether they had missiles, whether they were holograms. Were they really piloted by Arabs? Did they have passengers on them or not? And were there explosives already in the buildings? All that stuff. What's the truth? It just don't make no sense." OJ chuckled. then laughed louder, then laughed like real loud, until he was sort of howling, shrieking, whooping it up big style down the other end of the phone. I could hear him echoing all around his cell, then all round the prison. Hear other prisoners angrily yelling at him to shut the fuck up. But he just kept right on laughing. "Oh," he said, "oh boy." He finally calmed down a bit, after maybe 30-40 seconds. He chuckled softly and, I imagined, wiped a tear from his eye. "What if I told you," he said, "what if I told you it was all of the above? What would you say to that?" Silence. Silence on my end of the phone, and silence on his. I furrowed my brow and tried to get my head around how that could be. "And don't forget the chemtrails, man, that was in those planes. You can't imagine the stuff we put in them." Fuck me, I thought, this is getting sillier by the second. Next he'll be telling me the lizard people were in on it. Plus, he said, and I don't even need to tell you what he said next. Chapter 3. "It wasn't always supposed to be what it turned out to be," said OJ. "Right in the beginning, when I first had the idea, all I really wanted to do was destroy a bunch of incriminating documents the tax fellas were keeping in WTC2. Back then, of course, there wasn't much in the way of compute. Yeah, people make mistakes when they speak, as well as when they read. Back then, of course, there wasn't much in the way of computers or the internet, so no backups. Companies kept everything on paper. If a man owed several $1 million in back taxes, for example, the only record of that would probably be in just 1 or 2 files stored in one drawer of an office. Perhaps in some cases they might have made a copy, but that was the exception rather than the rule. If you could get at those papers, somehow make them disappear, then whoosh, all your debt would disappear too. So my first plan was something a little more small-scale, maybe assemble a team of crack commandos who had been incarcerated for a crime they hadn't committed, and get them to sneak into the office undercover, maybe disguised as postboys or old men in wheelchairs, cheap hookers or something, and one could get at the files while the others created a diversion by pretending to have seizures or spilling milk. I don't know. I guess in the end I let my imagination run away with me. Next thing I knew, I was envisioning that's a tough word. Next thing I knew, I was envisioning Arabs, airplanes, secret CIA espionage, and both buildings in rubble. Somewhere in that pile of rubble would be my documents, hopefully mangled beyond recognition, and the image of it fair got my lips a-licking to think of that weight off my mind. "You ever been in debt?" he said. "It's awful. It'll drive a man to extremes. I did what I had to do, I guess. I've always done what I had to do. It's the same drive that made me the greatest running back in NFL history. First player to rush 2,000 yards in a season. Highest average yards per game. You gots to do what you gots to do in this world, and there ain't no crime in that." "What about the rumors," I said, "that they were also storing all the documents and evidence relating to that court case you were involved in back in '94, and that they were about to bring out some new stuff. You remember?" "Sure I remember," he said. "Hard to forget a thing like that, no matter how much you try. You think being a few $1 million in debt is tough. Try being on the stand for something your lawyer says you didn't do, with some bitch attorney looking to nail you to a cross and burn you at the stake. But the gloves didn't fit, man, and that's the whole case right there. That was the murderer's gloves, and I couldn't even get it on my hand. That was the murderer's glove, and I couldn't even get it on my hand. You seen the size of my hands? I ain't no teeny-handed motherfucker like Donald Trump, that's for sure. Hell, maybe he did it, but no way it was me. They tried to stick it on me, and the damn thing didn't fit. It barely even went over my fingers. Idiots," he chuckled, "trying to stick that glove on me right there in court. But the whole world saw, and I was free." OJ was silent for a moment. He'd been getting himself riled up with this talk of his debts and the murders he'd so astonishingly been found innocent of. Now he tried to calm himself down. "Listen," he said quietly, almost whispering. "Don't you ever wonder, if the glove didn't fit me and would only fit a guy with smaller hands, then where is that guy? Who was it who actually did the crime? One thing you got to ask yourself is, where was Trump the night of those murders? How would the glove have fitted him if they'd had him on the stand? I tried to get Johnny to get him up there, question him, but Johnny, man, for all the good he did, there was something didn't smell right about that guy. Somebody had their fingers in his pies. It was all a plot. These things go deeper than even I know, and I'm in pretty deep. At least I think I am. The shit I'm going to tell you. CIA, alien reptilians, Sybil Shepherd, the goddamn Queen of England, and Osama bin Laden. That motherfucker weren't no Saudi rich oil man or whatever they said he was. Nigger was a goddamn robot. Why do you think it took them so long to kill him? I'll tell you why. There was 7 of them, all the goddamn same. You ever seen Stingray or Captain Scarlet or goddamn Thunderbirds? You watch an episode of that where they've got some dancing little Arab playing the bad guy and tell me you don't see a resemblance. The clues are right there in your face, man. They love to make a mockery of people. Gives them a kick sticking references in TV shows and movies where anyone can see them. You just got to watch a few Disney films to know what I'm talking about. And believe me, I've seen 'em all. But listen, he said, growing quiet again. I'm saying too much. I got to get this off my chest, wipe the slate clean before I face my Lord. But I get the feeling the phone's not the best place to do it. They probably got this thing bugged, probably listening to every word we say. I shouldn't have called you in the first place. I'm sorry, bro, but your life's probably in danger now. CIA motherfuckers, believe me. If they can knock down Tupac and MLK, what they gonna do to a nobody like you? I mean, I know I'm safe. I'm the juice, man. And any CIA guy wants to take out the juice, he's gonna be unleashing Pandora's Armageddon. They wouldn't dream of it. The whole country would be up in flames, like it was in '94. But for somebody like you, who's gonna notice when you're gone? Who's gonna raise a stink? Who's going to bring attention to the fact that it weren't no natural causes, that you got 2 damn bullet holes in the back of your head, and guys in black fedoras with guns for umbrellas were seen sauntering away from the scene? Listen, he said, I got an idea. I think you should come out here. Come visit me and we'll do some talking face to face. By the time I get out of here, just 8 sweet weeks, probably you'll have the whole book done and dusted and we'll be ready to go into print. Then you can come and stay at mine. I got a sweet crib, man, pools, chandeliers, a 12-foot-tall statue of me in the garden. Bar stocking anything you want. Bitches and hoes left and right and center, sucking on whatever hole you tell 'em. You'll love it. Ah, I said, there might be a problem with that. Say what? He shouted. Say what? Say what? Say what? Say what? Say what? Say what? He shouted. Don't you be holding out on OJ. Why the fuck not? You don't like bitches? You don't want to stay in no palace, ungrateful motherfucker? It ain't that, I said, and then corrected myself. It's not that, I said. It's that I'm not actually allowed in the US. I got banned back when I was in my early 20s, got deported like 3 times, and they told me I couldn't return for like 20 years. Still got 3 years left till it's cleared. And even then, I don't know if I'll get in. Ho, 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 said OJ, chuckling away. You one bad motherfucker. What did you do? Punch some bitch in the face? Rob a liquor store? Pop a cap in some pig's ass? OJ, I said, can you do me a favor, please? Sure, man, you name it. Can you stop saying the word bitch? I don't like it. It doesn't feel good. Bro, he said, and then he went quiet. I could hear him breathing. And then maybe sobbing a little. He sniffed. You're right, man. I'm sorry. I I've been watching too many TV shows and movies where homeboys be talking like that, be saying bitch and nigger and shit. I guess it's sort of leached into me, and particularly today. I totally binge watched the entire first series of The Wire. It's made my brain go a bit weird. The other thing he said, sniffing a little, is I just miss her, you know? I wish she was still here, that I could see her again. And I guess not having her around makes me weirdly angry, and I take it out on women folk in general, and that's not fair. Nicole, I said. Who? He said. Your ex-wife, I said, the one you were married to. Shit, he said. Shit, he said. Not her, fuck her. I'm glad she's... but... No, not her. I'm talking about my mom. I miss her. I only ever wanted her to notice me, to make her proud. And she was proud, I know, even in my down times, the times people said I went wrong. She was still proud of me, but I don't know. I just wanted more. She wasn't there enough, you know. I can't even explain it. Because I guess I've been acting that out with women ever since. He went quiet again. I didn't know what to say, so I didn't say anything. Seemed like the right thing to do, to just leave a bit of space there. Let him ponder. Let him let the words he spoke sink in a little and settle in his brain. Seemed like there might be something of a realization there, a breakthrough even, if he could only... In any case, he said, fuck that shit. It's just a word, man. And if you got a problem with that word, with any word, then it's you need to be looking at, not me. Words don't mean nothing, right? Apart from in the head of the guy who's got an issue. And the way you respond to them is your responsibility. You feel me? If you want to react, that's your choice. But there ain't no inherent feeling in words. It's just your conditioning that makes you react so. So man up, you know what I'm saying? But it does feel bad, I said, instantly regretting not letting it drop, but continuing anyway. And certain words do grate, do seem like loaded with a particular vibration, or at least to express something of the mind or sentiment of the speaker, and that does sometimes feel unpleasant in the ears and the being of the listener, i.e. me. Like fuck, for example? Yeah, I'd say that's true. Sometimes I hear someone saying that word, and it's like being stabbed with a little dagger over and over again. Okay, he says. But what about when you hear someone say fuck in some other language, in goddamn French or Spanish or something? What do they say? Putain, merde, pinchy. Does that feel bad? Or does it? Well, here's what it does for me. It makes me laugh. Seems like some child's word. Literally don't mean a thing. I thought about this, and it seemed like he had a point. To hear people swearing in another language, he was right. There weren't no bad vibrations. It just made me giggle. And yet, there does seem something there when I hear some guy effing and jeffing in English, particularly bitch and cunt and fuck. I needed more time to think about this. Also, I thought we might be getting slightly off the subject. But hey, said OJ, chuckling again, if you don't like it, that's your truth and that's valid. I'll try and keep it to a minimum. I want us to get on, you know. You seem like an okay guy for a Brit. I'd like it if we could be friends. I can't promise I won't never say bitch again, but I'll do my best. Fair? Fair, I said. He surprised me with this. It wasn't the first time he had said something that had surprised me, and it probably wouldn't be the last. So what was I saying, said OJ. Something about... Oh yeah, so the thing is, sometime in about 1997, they moved a bunch of those court records over to WTC7, and that complicated matters somewhat. Also, why didn't you just get someone to go in there and destroy those particular records, I said. What? Rather than having this incredibly complex scheme to destroy the entire World Trade Center, involving airplanes and terrorists and secret government plots and space lizards, why didn't you just get someone to go in there and, I don't know, one night maybe just steal the records and be done with it? Sort of like Watergate, but better. Yeah, said OJ. I hear ye. I hear you, mofo. And I thought of that, but, well, as you said, that didn't go so well for Nixon, did it? And more than that, things started to snowball once George got involved. It weren't just about my documents anymore. We were going to kill all kinds of birds with them 2 planes/stones. George took my original scheme and made it into something else. Something that was supposed to not only get rid of my debts, but bring in a whole load of money for everyone involved. And I mean serious money. Enough that I'd never have to do another after-dinner speech or armed robbery ever again. George, I said. George Clooney. And then immediately remembered. What? He said. Nothing, I said. Just wondering whether it was W or senior. Shh, he said. Let's just... Shush, he said. Shush, 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 shh. Shush, he said. Enough. Something, he said. Let's just leave it at that for now. But listen, I'm going to work on that little deportation problem of yours. I'm going to talk to some people. I want to get you over here, and soon. Leave it to OJ, man, he said. Or Renthal James will fix it for you. Let's talk soon. He put the phone down. Or rather, he touched the place on the screen that ends the call, and then maybe put it down. I couldn't be sure, but that's what I imagined he did. Maybe he called someone else, or checked his texts, or played Candy Crush, or dropped it and almost caught it, but didn't, then said the F word, and feared the worst, but tentatively turned it over and breathed a sigh of relief when he picked it up again and saw that the screen was perfectly fine and must have bounced off a corner. No one puts a phone down to end a call anymore. All that would do would leave the other person able to hear what they did next and waste their minutes. And yet, despite all that, it's still a better phrase than he pressed the red button icon. He pressed the red phone icon. Rather. An hour later, OJ rang back. Your deportation problem, he said. Problem. I got it fixed. And for the first time in this whole strange interaction, I felt a genuine burst of actual excitement. After all these years of being banned from the US, of fantasizing about meeting some rich American girl with a nice daddy lawyer, of finding some official with fingers in pies, of throwing some money at the issue, and waltzing once more through American immigration without skulking afraid like the dog what's done a shit in its master's slippers, my passport all gleaming and new, and a visa granting me access all areas because of friends in high places and enough dollar doing the talking, you can make any problem disappear. God bless you, OJ. Are you ready? He said. Here's what you're going to do. Number 1, get a flight to Vancouver or somewhere in Canada out west. Number 2, make your way to the mountains. Number 3, walk through the mountains, over the border, and my man AC will be there the other side in my Bronco to pick you up. He'll drive you down here to Nevada and bring you out to see me. There'll be a room booked for you at the Lovelock Inn. They got free Wi-Fi, free donuts, 3 free brownies for breakfast, a table and chair in almost every room. You can stay there and finish off the book while waiting for me to get out. And don't worry about money. The room's totally on me. I got enough to cover it for like a month, and there's plenty more on its way once I free up a few loose ends. Don't you mean tie up? I said. If they're loose, they're already free. Tie up, yeah, he said. Tie up some unfinished business and get the cash flow flowing again. That sound good to you? Hike through the mountains and past all the patrols and spotter planes and infrared gizmos and lasers so I can sneak into America rather than paying someone to do it legally? Right, he said. Sure, I sighed. Why not?